This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to the Sunday edition of Racing Across America. Seth Merrow and Sully Crotty. Good morning, Sully.
Good morning, Seth. How are you?
Very good. Ready to review a big day of horse racing, particularly down in Florida. We saw
Absolutely.
the return of Good Magic. We'll talk about that in just a second. Review some of the other stakes action from Gulfstream a little bit later in the show. Also do some handicapping. But at the top of the show, happy to be joined by our friend Ellis Starr, national racing analyst from Equibase. You can also find his comments over at America's Best Racing, other spots as well. When we see his graphic, you'll see his Twitter handle. If you swing by his Twitter feed, you can get other blogs and whatnot that Ellis puts out on a regular basis. Ellis, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. Good morning, Seth.
You're a busy guy. You got a lot of info out there. And before we go on, let you tout your podcast a little bit, because I know you're doing that regularly. When and where can people find the podcast?
It's called the Key Races and Bets Podcast, and it's available in the iTunes Store, but also on the free Podbean app and at ubercapper.podbean.com. Just remember the ubercapper, which is my Twitter handle, so ubercapper.podbean.com. I usually put it up Friday morning and wait till the Saturday cards come out. I'd like to get the morning lines to help get the value plays, but if not, it's available every week. And it's a lot of fun, 10, 12 minutes, just me babbling, except for don't listen to yesterday's replay because it was awful.
Well, that's certainly that Fountain of Youth, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. It was tough for everybody, and we'll get some analysis of that. But boy, again, it was a good day. A couple of weeks ago, and we'll talk about that in a moment too, things kind of juggled up down in Louisiana and Oaklawn, and I said we're waiting to see if the cream can rise to the top. So the return of Good Magic and Bolt d'Oro, let's see if McKenzie can validate what he's done, and maybe some of these horses will take a firm grip on the division. But yesterday continued to throw things in a little bit of array. Let's take a look at the stretch run of the Fountain of Youth from yesterday, and Dale Romans gets it done with Promises Fulfilled, who hadn't been seen since running third in the Kentucky Jockey Club last year behind Enticed. So a little bit of a layoff, but gets out there and essentially takes him all the way around and has plenty left in the stretch to hold off Strike Power, who I thought ran well, given it was his first try around 2 turns. Good Magic runs third in here, though, and while I wouldn't write him off on that, I thought the performance from Good Magic was maybe, I'll qualify it as a little bit uninspiring. What was your takeaway from the Fountain of Youth?
Well, I'm still stinging. So let's give it that way. Everybody is that had an opinion in the race. You live or die with pace, and on paper it sure looked like for certain that Promises Fulfilled, Strike Power was going to go based on his 2 wire-to-wire wins. I thought Machismo was going to go, and Promises Fulfilled from the 10 post was going to be forced and go fast, lose ground. In reality, what happened was, and I got to pull up this chart, what happened was it was just, I want to say horribly slow, but it was not a race you're going to see, in my opinion, the rest of the Triple Crown Trail. I mean, you don't get, he went 23 and 8/10, but the incremental fractions, the fractions between the first and second and third, 24.59, 24.21, 24.99, okay? They can come home in 6. They can come home at 6 flat in the last 16. And the fact is that was an aberrational race. They let him dictate the pace. Nobody closed. It was, and actually, somebody actually sent an image of a carousel, a little kid's playground, merry-go-round. That's what it was yesterday. I mean, they ran 1, 2, 3 around the track. Machismo closed a little bit, but to be honest, I know he got I looked this morning, a big Equibase figure, 115, the best 3-year-old figure of the year, which you'd expect because it was a good effort. But the way the race was run, I've got to really take a hard look about how I'm going to look at these horses coming back. No one's going to get away with slower fractions in the second and third quarters like he did in that race. And so everybody behind him is suspect to me.
And it was Good Magic's comeback event, and given the way Gulfstream plays and those slow fractions, as I say, I want to see one more from him, but it didn't inspire confidence necessarily going forward on Good Magic, but I can go either way there. Strike Power, as I say, given the stretch out the first time, I thought he ran well. I had Mark Hennig on with me yesterday, and I talked about the workout he put in behind Carlino. He had Strike Power sitting behind Carlino and then made a move. And I said, given that workout, is the game plan maybe going to be to get him to settle a little bit? And he said, yeah, probably, because there's some speed outside of us. And that's the way it turned out to be. I wonder, given the fractions, though, if the Strike Power people aren't now saying, man, we should have gone to the lead.
Yeah, that certainly is. I heard an interview with Mark, and was watching the TV broadcast yesterday as well, and it could have occurred to me at that time that was going to be problematic. And when you look at this running line now, and the Equibase chart has both the regular running line and what's going to look like coming back. So I'm looking at what it's going to look like in his PPs, and it's 2s around the track. And for a horse that wins his first 2 races wire to wire, and this is nothing taking away from Mark Hennig, because I loved Cash yesterday, and she got into a jam behind the tiring Altered Moon. But when you look at this running line coming back, and you see 2 races of wire to wire, and then you see 2s across the board, this is absolutely, positively the running lines of a need-to-lead type. And, maybe you're going to train him and take dirt and this and that, and he can do this kind of thing again, but this horse is need-lead type. If they don't send him next time and let him roll, they're doing him a disservice because he cannot pass. It's not mentally in his psyche to pass a horse. And so I don't know what you do with him. Good Magic was, I made the case. I said, either undertrained, short, or not as good as a 3-year-old last night on Twitter. And my good friend Bruno Giulio said, well, you can take out undertrained. I said, okay, fine. So typical 2 to 3. You don't know where he's going. I'm telling you, like I said, at this point, all these horses are out. I'm not interested in them going forward because you can't win wire to wire in the Derby, and you're not going to be able to do anything off these, even though the figures were good with these 3. I'm much more interested in what's coming up next week, and I'm much more interested in what happened on President's Day weekend.
Just a question. Who do you think the number 1 ranking would be in the Derby poll now that we see Good Magic losing?
Well, that's a great question. It's almost like morning line. Who's going to be number 1 among all the handicappers, the experts? And I don't do polls. Someone invited me, and I can't. I want to do it 4 days before the race, but I'm thinking about who I like, who I'm going to look forward to moving forward race to race, because 3-year-olds with these vast improvement from one race to another, and I've been very lucky this season and every year with this kind of guessing. But as far as if I take myself out of the handicapper role and say as far as the poll goes, I'm sure McKinsey's going to still be near the top. I'm sure Flame Away. We'll see what happens next week, of course. The Good Magic and Strike Power probably are still going to be in people's top 5s, but they're all big question marks for me as horses. I would bet not only would they be overbet, but you've got a lot of question marks to answer coming back, making their first, second starts of the year. And a lot of the horses, of course, that are trying to go the Derby with a 2-race prep is also problematic. Could be problematic.
I want to go back a couple weeks because, again, I'll tell people if they swing by Equibase on the weekends, you handicap a featured race every week, nice free analysis. And a couple of weeks ago, you had the Risen Star, Bravazzo on top. Nice call there. But was that kind of a one-shot deal, or did you like him going in and coming out? Where do you think Bravazzo sits on your top 10, so to speak?
Well, I will say that thank you, first of all. It was lucky that he was completely ignored by the wagering. In fact, everything lined up for him. I had a discussion again, referring to Twitter, and lots of great discussions this week about speed figures. And sometimes there's a disparity between an Equibase and a Briss and a Bayer and a performance figure like a Ragozin or a sheet figure, a Thorograph figure. And I had like Storm Runner yesterday, and of course he tried to go through that hole and then he stopped. And you're not going to restart the horse. And then he actually lost his action on the turn. But the reason I'm mentioning Storm Runner is because his figure going in 111 was as good as Strike Powers. It was good as Good Magic 109 in the Breeders' Cup a few months ago, and with logical improvement, he should run about as well. So going back to the Risen Star, Bravazzo stacked up with Instilled Regard, and he was actually better than Noble Indy, who of course would take money because Pletcher, and Principe Guillermo, who's been a buzz horse for some unknown reason to me because he's kind of one-dimensional. So Bravazzo, first of all, had a race this year, which is a great race, and Lucas decided to ship him, which wasn't as big of an indicator for me, but it was the graded placed at 2 when he ran second to Free Drop Billy in the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland, and then he had his race. His figure was good. I figured he was going to improve second layoff, and then he just got underbet. And then whenever I mention Bravazzo, we got to mention the runner-up, Snapper Sinclair, who ran huge. And there was another one. He was a stakes winner as a 2-year-old. Granted, it was on grass, but he did have a good dirt race because he was beaten inches by Principe Guillermo in the Lecomte for second. And then you have this race when Principe Guillermo was, and you have to remind me, probably 7-2, 4-1. And Snapper Sinclair, when I looked a couple minutes to the post, was 25, and of course he went off at 40. And this is a case where horses are inches apart, and there's no reason for it. It's almost like the stock market where people just gravitate to something on rumor or because somebody else is. People follow the odds on the tote board. And they were doing that, and they were betting Noble Indy, and they were betting Principe Guillermo, and betting Instilled Regard, who was my other contender, and he ran lousy. And so because of that, other horses go up. So I think Bravazzo is legitimate. I expect him to move forward again, third layoff. I expect Snapper Sinclair to move forward, third layoff. And I'm looking forward to see what they do. And then there's a few others on my radar, which I'm happy to mention.
Let me ask you about one horse that I'm curious about because, again, the last few weeks and including yesterday, things have shaken up now. So I'm worried we've got one of those situations where they're going to start beating each other, and we'll get that in all three of the Triple Crown races too. But can that, as I said earlier, the cream rise to the top? Boltioro, Mackenzie, and now one of the horses that stepped to the forefront this year, Audible. What are your thoughts on Audible?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned it because I made my notes this morning again to refresh my memory, everybody. And Audible ran good in the Holy Bull. He's still below 100 on the Equibase scale, which is okay right now. He's 97 on the Holy Bull win. It was very professional. I did a local show that weekend on the week before maybe, and someone had asked me whether I'd seen Derby horse yet, and I said no. And after Audible one, I said, here's my first Derby quality, professional, athletic, intelligent, but he's got to step it forward, and especially since, they've decided to skip those out in the youth and go from the Bull to the Florida Derby, I believe. But he's definitely on my radar. I want to, unless you had more questions, I was going to mention a couple of horses that are under the radar that people need to keep an eye on. So one was the horse that won on the undercard yesterday, Hofburg, who I had a minor look at, but I didn't think he'd jump up from fourth to that nice win. Now, Hofburg, for those who don't know, is a half-brother to Emollients who won $1 million change, Juddmonte, Belmont. Don't know how aggressive they're going to be going from that maiden win. But, this time of year in March is when we see horses. This is when we saw Orb, or February, March, when you see Orb. When you see Gulfstream, two-turn maiden races, and you say, oh, my gosh, you got a horse that may have a shot. So Hofburg's one I want to mention. No idea where he's coming back. The horse I'm most interested in, again, in the same vein as Bravazzo, Snapper Sinclair coming in. There's actually two. One's my boy Jack. I'm not going to ignore him because he ran huge in the Southwest on dirt. I don't care that it was off track. He also was a stakes winner at 2. And the DeStormo boys are just very tough. With I've Struck a Nerve, with Sonneteer last year running second at 220-1. You can't leave them out. But the horse I want people to note about is the horse named Ayakara. Speaking of DeStormo, this is Kenton Keith. And Ayakara ran second to Lombo, who had that I think, almost wire-to-wire tripper than Robert Lewis. And he's going to come in the radar, under the radar. Horses that run second in these preps coming under the radar. I don't think if he comes back, particularly against Bolt or McKenzie or wherever they decide to go with him next, he's very interesting to me. He got a 104 echo-base figure in that second Alombo, and this is where Keith DeSormer was such a fantastic horseman in pointing ahead and planning everything out. And Ayakar is going to take a big step up wherever he runs next time out.
I'll toss out one yesterday because in doing OTB Live, our afternoon handicapping show, and watching Oaklawn, fifth race Oaklawn yesterday, Exclamation Point, who's a sibling to Classic Empire, won for the second time in the second career start. Looked a little green late. That concerned me a little bit, but otherwise it was a nice looking win. Now 2 for 2, Exclamation Point for Brad Cox, again with a little bit of breeding there as well. All right, Ellis, want to jump in and get some ideas from you for this afternoon? You've got a couple at Gulfstream and one out at Santa Anita, so we'll shift gears and move into handicapping mode. The opener at Gulfstream today is a plain vanilla 16 claimer, 5 furlongs on the turf. What did you see in Gulfstream number 1 today?
Well, it was interesting because a horse that is in really good form is pretty high odds on the morning line, and it may hold up because when I look at morning lines, particularly at Gulfstream, and the public resets them quite a bit, I look to see what their odds were in the last few races. And that's the one, Some Roar, who opens at 8-1. And there's a bunch of good horses in the race. Some Roar, Aussie Prayer would be my second pick, but also you could use Awesome Densum, Hugatree, Cordell. But those are 7-2, 5-2, 3. But Some Roar is the horse to talk about. So first of all, 5 on the grass. This is his forte. 15 of his 23 races have been turf sprints at 5. He's got 3 wins in 2 seconds, but the best is his last 3, and he's been kind of in the ball game at Claim. He won on dirt. He was owned by Drawing Away Stable, who had a presence down at Gulfstream, of course, during the summer season, and still do around the country. And then right off the Claim by Yvonne Belsour, he went to a 5 furlong back to the turf, where he had won twice before, and he ran second at the 8,000 level, comes back October 22nd, wins nicely. Now he's claimed by Fernando Abreu, and Abreu's kind of cold to meet, but he's a good trainer. He's decent enough with me, and they're going to Rios, again, low profile, but this horse just seems to fire. The last 6 races, third first, second first. And you're getting 8-1 on a horse that's in form, been rested, doesn't necessarily need the lead here. So I look at Some Roar here as the key, and bet him to win and key him with the Aussie Prayer, Awesome, then some Hugatree and Cordell. I would also take a look at Aussie Prayer because you're getting a jockey change. I read Ortiz hardly ever rides for Handle, 1 for 6 the last year and a half, and this horse also been off November. Private trainer change from Laurel. Again, a horse, all of his races have been turf sprints for his entire career. Everything, 25 starts of 27 have been turf sprints, and he missed by a neck 3 back. He missed by a nose 4 back, and he ran second. Those are with Sheldon Russell, Gomez, and Bracco. No real knocks, of course, on any of them, but Ortiz is something else after yesterday's performances, too, between the Ortiz brothers winning 8 races.
I'll get your opinion because I mentioned it the last couple of days. The Ortiz brothers obviously doing very well down there. Luis Saez doing very well. But how about John Velasquez at this Gulfstream meet?
Well, good or bad.
It's just wow. He's knocking it out of the park down there.
Yeah,
good to see.
He's playing a Mike Smith.
Yeah, exactly. So who was I talked to somebody the other day, and they said it's kind of a Jerry Bailey in his career, where he's kind of picking his spots and winning at a high percentage.
Yeah, less is more. Smith learned that 2 years ago when he went to his agent, said, do that, you get in great shape. Johnny's riding smart. He certainly rode really good on the Fletcher's Murad yesterday in that stake, sitting just second and making a nice move. And that was a stake, so it's where it counted. But the Ortiz brothers are unconscious.
Yeah, it's been that way for a couple of years, and it was funny to watch. Finally, the bettors at Gulfstream this season have had to endure what we up in New York has, as you get a couple of points taken off the Ortiz. The paddock commentators look up at the board and say, "Oh, boy, that's a little short." Jose is on, or Irod is on. So now you're living our life down there. All right, let's take a look at the 6th at Gulfstream today. 6th at Gulfstream, optional claimer, starter allowance. They're going to go 7 furlongs. What did you see in race number 6 this afternoon?
It's not a great price, but the 4 Enders Cat stands out here. This is just an interesting horse, owned and trained by Steve Budu. I love owner trainers at these low claiming and starter levels. Picked up the horse back in December for $62.50 out of a 6-length win around a 1-turn mile. 2 turns ran second, then a 1-turn mile last time out in pretty much the same conditions, 5-2, and really was pushed early into the pace, got tired late. I looked inside, and really there's Forrest Gator is the only horse with really early speed, and I think Nick Juarez, the jockey change, was really perfect here because the only time Juarez rode the horse was the race where he won for the previous trainer by 6, and he sent the lead, and he just wired it 4-5. So you're looking at the horse that was 4-5, and essentially the same condition at 4-1 here. So I like Enders Cat. I'm going to box Enders Cat with the 5 top of the page, 4-5 box with Lozcano. Moving back to third, he won 3 back with Lozcano. Same angle. He won for a different trainer with Lozcano, trained by Gary Gallo, and then Agulo, and then 2 races on the grass. Now back, Lozcano riding him on the dirt. It's a 4-5 box and a 4-8 box. Strong composition, who just won by 4.5 lengths from Pilati. Does move to a lower percentage trainer, but I think the conditioning might hold up for another race.
All right, finally, let's go out to Southern California, get some ideas for Santa Anita this afternoon. The 7th race at Santa Anita. Nice little maiden special weight event. They're going to go 5.5. Your thoughts on the Santa Anita 7th?
Well, it's interesting. We're getting to the point now where until we get to Derby week and maybe next week, the cards are a little light and the fields are a little light. Of course, we had the mud this week, which didn't help things. But 176 here. The favorite, the 7 Broom, is a nice horse. He did run second. This is one of those new restricted races. Horses sold for 100,000 or less. I'm not sure what that really means. It just gives horses a shot, but in handicapping, it's not a consideration. But Broom ran in one of these. He ran second to a 5-length winner. She did, I should say, coming off a layoff from August to Feb, so she should move up. But she's not my top pick. The 1 Tapalita is really interesting. She's by a mare called Tapatia, and of course we have a product we promote a lot, and I use a lot every day. That's Race Plan, which lets me look at pedigree really, really fast. And Tapatia has 2 other foals. They're 4 for 11. They're both winners. And Tapatia ran a horrible first out in November, but off the 2.5-month layoff, she improved, she matured. She ran third at 10-1. So you think a horse, she shipped to Golden Gate, so some people are going to discount that, but I'm not worried about it. You'd think that a horse that came back from a layoff and ran third at 10-1 would be 4 or 5-1, but John White set the line at 15, and if the public follows it, she's playable. Drayden Van Dyke gets on. She's on a good pattern. She's related to a multiple winner. I think she's going to run a lot better. She's only beaten, again, 2 1/4 for the win last time out. The 6 What a Flirt, another horse is interesting. Ran once, ran last May, ran 4th of 8 at 2-1. She opens at 6-1 here off a trainer change to Leonard Powell, who's a good trainer, just doesn't get a lot of horses. The work pattern is good, and he's at 2 for 5 on the trainer change. Again, this is a dam play. This is really fascinating, by the way. The dams had 8 foals, and 4 of them ran second in their debuts. None won. But second time out, 3 of her 7 foals that made their second start won. And 6 of them hit the board. I can't explain that. Genetics is a weird thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But this dam's foals somehow run tremendously well after they've had a race, and so I'm going to take a shot. 176, Tapalita, Broom, and What a Flirt in the 7th venue.
I like it. Ellis, appreciate the visit as always. And again, we had your Twitter handle up during the conversation at Uber Capper. You can follow Ellis that way and get all his printed works via the internet, blogs and whatnot. Go to Equibase every week for the featured race as well as America's Best Racing. And Ellis, one more time on the podcast. Ubercapper.podbean, or you can just go to podbean.com. It's ubercapper.podbean.com. Sounds good. Ellis, again, thanks for the visit, and we'll talk again.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a great day.
All right, Ellis Starr, National Racing Analyst for Equibase, gave you some thoughts for this afternoon, a little recap on that Fountain of Youth. And again, as Ellis said, I'm kind of with him. He is more tossing these horses. I'm not sure about the toss on Good Magic and Strike Power. Promises Fulfilled, I don't know what to make of that. I mean, he went out there and took them all the way around with some easy fractions. Strike Power, it was the first time around 2 turns. I thought it was okay, but there were a couple of points in the stretch where you thought, oh, he's going to go by, and he never did. But again, given the track and whatnot and the fractions, I want to see one more from Good Magic, too. I would have liked to have seen a better seasonal debut from Good Magic, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you get that coming off the Breeders' Cup. That's a tough race to go into. But as you said, I was really interested to see how Strike Power would handle the 2 turns. And as you said, I thought he handled it pretty well. And obviously, we'd like to see him go 2 turns one more time. As Ellis said, maybe he wanted to get to the lead, just couldn't get to the lead. So I thought it was a good effort by Strike Power.
Yeah, it was an interesting race, to say the least. Again, kind of keeping things in a little bit of array on the Derby trail over the past 2, 3, 4 weeks. We'll see how it plays out next week. McKinzie, Voltioro, and whatnot. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll do a little recap of some of the other stakes action from yesterday. Please stay tuned.
It may be cold in the Northeast, but in South Florida, the action's hot. This winter, be part of the championship meet at Gulfstream Park, where the fields are deep and the payouts are big. With some of the most competitive turf racing in America, Gulfstream Park is your winter destination for the finest in championship thoroughbred horse racing. And if you're looking for the top jockeys and best trainers, you'll find them all at Gulfstream Park. So play it today. Gulfstream Park. Champions start here.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. Seth Merrow and Sully Crotty. Also want to thank our friends at Gulfstream for their sponsorship of this program. Some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Gulfstream Park. Champions start here, and it was a great day of racing at Gulfstream. We'll get to some of that stakes action in just a moment, but there were a couple of stakes I wanted to look at beforehand. One on the other side of the planet, just because she is phenomenal. Yeah. Winx, it was Friday night our time, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon over there in Australia. We're going to pull up the Chipping Norton Stakes. Group 1 event. Winx is going to be the number 7 horse in here. And this is just, what can you say? It's just incredible, the streak she has. This was her record 16th Group 1 win. She surpassed, with the 16th Group 1 win, she surpassed the Great Black Caviar. This was her 23rd race in a row, and this was her first start back. And again, she's the 7 horse. This was her first start back since winning her 3rd Cox Plate. And for folks who aren't familiar with racing down in Australia, the Cox Plate is one of the top races down there. So she's won it 3 times as part of a 23-race win streak, 16 Group 1s. And again, this was a comeback. They had planned the comeback, I think, a couple of weeks ago, but her regular jockey, Hugh Bowman, was on the sidelines with a suspension. So they didn't want to change things up. They kind of went to Plan B, as it were, and aimed for this race, the Chipping North, and got it done, as they say, Friday night our time, Saturday afternoon down in Australia at Randwick in the Chipping Norton. But Sully, I mean, you put numbers like this together, it's just phenomenal. I guess our closest comparison would be Zenyatta, but Zenyatta wasn't winning one of the top races in the country three years in a row. It's just, and then look at her just kind of pull away from this group and laugh at them.
Yeah, not even running at all. And yeah, she is on a different level. It's unbelievable. And she said 23 in a row, so.
Just
that
that
just speaks for itself.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Again, I just wanted to show that. As it was in Australia, a lot of people probably aren't following international racing, although that is one of the beautiful parts of the internet now. It's easy to follow. Pull up past performances. Of course, we have the Australian racing here regularly overnight. Free past performances are for your Capital Bets account holders, so it's easy to follow the racing around the world. And when there's a story like that and a horse like that, and of course she's a superstar in Australia, I guess, as she's coming down the stretch, the crowd at Randwick went wild, and of course as she came back to be unsaddled, that continued. But just wanted to show that again, as it was an incredible performance down there. All right, also wanted to show the Santa Isabel. Now, there was a scratch. It was a little more interesting when I called for this race. The scratch of Dream Tree, the 4-for-4 3-year-old filly from Bob Baffert. That horse scratched. The word was because of the track. It was an off-track yesterday at Santa Anita. But subsequently with that scratch, Midnight Bijou went off as the 30-cent to $1 favorite. Midnight Bijou is going to be the number 3 horse and will win pretty convincingly, just over 2 lengths. The margin between second and third was another 8 lengths. 13 squared second, Spring Lily third. It's only a field of 5. And again, this one went off as a short price favorite, so no surprises here. Dream Tree waits for another day, but wanted to show this because, of course, these races are playing into the Kentucky Oaks a little further down the line.
Yeah, and as you said, you can't really, because with Dream Tree in that mix, it's a completely different race there. But obviously, that was the obvious choice, and that horse really it looked a little bit like Winks, just really had a lot left, and really didn't even take a whip out at all, and that was just nice to see. But yeah, as you said, Dream Tree scratching. Yeah, I'd like to see Dream Tree run again because the last time we were on, I think a couple weeks ago, we were talking about Dream Tree, and yeah,
La Virgin has an easy win there, easy win in the Starlet. So she's sitting at or near the top of that 3-year-old filly class. But again, Bob Baffert decided we will go another day with the off track yesterday at Santa Anita. But the able substitute, Midnight Bijou, and the record for her is now 4 starts, 2 wins, 2 seconds, and the 2 seconds were both like this. So she's nice. She's a nice 3-year-old filly as well, and we'll see how the West Coast 3-year-old fillies stack up with the East Coast 3-year-old fillies as we get closer and closer to the Kentucky Oaks. All right, let's go through some of those stakes yesterday at Gulfstream Park. Again, it was a really, really nice stakes card through and through, highlighted by the Fountain of Youth, but a little bit earlier, the McDermott. That one was won by Sadler's Joy. Sadler's Joy went off as the 9-5 favorite and makes a nice late run. Sadler's Joy, the number 1 horse, over One Go, All Go. Nessie runs 3rd. Oscar nominated runs 4th in here. I thought Bernay for Chad Brown might be a little bit interesting. That one finishes last in the field of 12, but did have some traffic trouble. But a nice run, nice late run to get up by, what's the chart margin? 3/4 of a length for Sadler's Joy. It was Tommy Albatrani and Julian Lepereau.
Yeah, and Dick had One Go, All Go for his play of the day, and that horse went off at 12-1, and everyone thought that horse was home. Coming out of nowhere, Sadler's Joy, and our Twitter feed's got a Sadler's Joy, the live stretch. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out. But it just came out of nowhere with Lepereau, and I thought Nessie ran extremely well for Ian Wilkes. He does very well on the turf, especially with some closers. But I felt bad for Dick a little bit because I knew he really liked One Go, All Go. But Sadler's Joy, it was very fun to see just come out of nowhere.
Hopefully toss a little place money, because at 12 to 1 you got an $11 place
exactly.
price as well. But yeah, it got run down late by the favorite. And under the favorite, the exacta was okay too. You put one go, I'll go under the 9-5 favorite. You got just under $60 on the exacta. So you could have played it that way too and made a little bit of dough, as it were. Wouldn't surprise me, in fact, if Dick backed it up that way. The Gulfstream Park Sprint, just a little bit earlier on the card. This one, favorable outcome, went off as the even money favorite for Chad. Favorable outcome, hadn't been seen since trying the Malibu, but had won the Swale last year. When I talked to Chad, I wondered if maybe there was a little horse for a course angle for favorable outcome. He also a little traffic trouble, winds up 6th in the field of 10. The winner in here is number 4, Classic Rock, at 5 to 1. Running second, Sweet on the Ladies, the number 8 horse, 95 to 1, and 8-Town at 12 to 1. The number 2 runs third. But a nice performance by Classic Rock for Kathy Ritvo. Came out with an optional claimer in the race before. Had tried some stakes company earlier in the career and kind of unsuccessfully. But that race last time, the optional claimer, was from a summer to December layoff. So it looks like now, as a 4-year-old, this horse is in good form and potentially, as the season goes along, an interesting player in the sprint division.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had the Classic Rock on top yesterday, but 8-Town, just looking at the form, I didn't put it on the one sheet, but I was looking just to try to find a horse underneath.
You didn't find Sweet on the Ladies at 95 to 1?
No, I missed that one. But I had 8-Town in the mix too, and so I was kind of hoping the wire showed up, but I don't think anyone had Sweet on the Ladies at 95 to 1 underneath, so I don't really feel bad missing that one. But Classic Rock, I thought was a little bit of a steal at 5 to 1. It was 7 to 1 when they were going in the gate, but they were walking around for about 8 minutes before they go in, like usual. So dropped down to 5 to 1. But yeah, it was
funny. As you're looking at your odds, you're going, get in the gate.
Yeah, exactly. And then it dropped down to 5 to 1. But definitely was not upset with it. Getting home, $13 horse, but. Yeah, I thought 8-Town ran a huge race that day, and I thought that was a little bit of a steal at 12 to 1 as well.
Yeah, it was Luis Saez on board, continues his nice riding down there at Gulfstream Park. All right, the Canadian Turf, a mile on the turf. This one's kind of interesting because we're going to watch Hoagie make a nice late run. Hoagie is a bona fide turf sprinter. But they went out and they set really fast fractions. Hoagie is a closing turf sprinter. So as they set the fast fractions, and Hoagie early on is sitting, 6th on the chart. As they hit the turn and Hoagie started to move, you had to feel like, oh, he's kind of got him over a barrel now, because he's a closing turf sprinter. They went fast early. So he's going to essentially, as they hit the turn and he started to move, you knew, oh, he's still got some stamina because they've gone the early part already, and he's now making a nice move. So you kind of felt, well, it's a sprint home now, and he's a turf sprinter, and that's just how it played out. He did what he does best. He made it a turf sprint from about the early part of the far turn and sprinted home, and he was a nice 5 to 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had Galleon Mass in the stakes preview. He won morning line. I think it was 8 to 1 or 10 to 1. Went off as the favorite, so I was a little bummed out there. But I had Hoagie nowhere, and I thought the stretch maybe would hurt a little bit, but clearly not. He was a little bit. He was just a little bit behind on top of the stretch, and then when you saw all 3 heads at the top of the stretch, you kind of got that feeling the turf sprinter would take it away. And Arada Ortiz picked up one of his, I think, 5 wins yesterday. And he's just on a different level right now.
I used Hoagie right underneath. I put Highland Sky on top, and Highland Sky winds up disappointing, running 6th. But I used Hoagie right underneath on the kind of anticipating just what happened, but it played out even better than I could have imagined. But he had some closing sprint speed, and so you thought maybe he can sit up and then make that nice late run from the far turn home, and that's just the way it played out. As I say, it was hard to see it, falling into place that well, but Hoagie looked pretty good. And it'll be interesting to see now what they do with Hoagie, because as I say, I'm just looking down. There is nothing on the page showing that's longer than a 6.5 turf sprint. He's a bona fide turf sprinter, but now I wonder if they say, maybe we have a miler on our hands.
Absolutely.
But I think the fractions kind of played into his hand a little bit yesterday, because they were going fast early. So But it wouldn't surprise, as I say, I'll be interested to see where they go, because it wouldn't surprise me if they continue on and say, yeah, let's see if we can keep going with some of these mile turf races. A little bit earlier, the Devona Dale for the 3-year-old fillies. Again, playing into the Kentucky Oaks path, as it were. Cash from Mark Cassie is going to be the number 7 horse, and Cash, as Ella Starr alluded earlier, got into a little traffic trouble late. So the number 7, you can watch and judge for yourself. Fly So High, the number 8, will win. The logical favorite, and this was career win number 2,000 for Shug McGaughey. He went off at 7-5, and as I say, looking at the past performances, this was the logical play in the race. Take Charge Paula, second time out for owner Peter Deutsch, who we talked to a few weeks back after the win in the Forward Gal. And Kieran McLaughlin, that was a nice second-place finish for that one. And I think these are now both, again, players moving forward on that Kentucky Oaks scene.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how, it's not very often, like, they're both 3-year-olds, Fields, fillies, and the boys, they're wide open. I think that's what we're getting here. Fly So High. Take Charge Ball, I thought ran a nice race as well. So it's just a lot of question marks going in. May's not that far away, so I'm very interested to see how Fly So High does again. But yeah, I really thought Take Charge Ball ran a little bit better than I thought it would, and was a little bit more competitive too. I thought Fly So High had to work for it a little bit, getting pressed a little bit late in that race.
And again, I give a pass to Cash. It was the second start. We talked to Mark Hennig yesterday and taped it on Friday, but had it on Racing Across America yesterday. And, he admitted they're getting ambitious in the second start to move up like that with a little traffic trouble. So I want to see one more from Cash as well, because the career debut was just so good looking. All right, Here Comes the Bride. These are 3-year-old fillies on the turf, going 1 1/16. And I took a little shot against The Way I Am. I used Amertume on top, then Brittata in the second spot. So my 3 were all there, but again, I've kind of paid the price for putting The Way I Am in the third spot. Logical and, morning line favorite. Betting public made it the 3-2 choice. And boy, it's a nice late run from number 3, The Way I Am. Jose Ortiz comes up the rail, nice ride, and just clearly is the best in here. My other 2, as I say, come in second and third underneath, but The Way I Am clearly the best. And given what she's done in the past couple of races, the win in the Ginger Brew, the win in the Sweet Chant, in the subdivision of 3-year-old fillies on turf, she's now at the top of the list.
Yeah, and she kind of made it look easy there. So, the rail opened wide for her. It was wide open for her to make a little bit of a run. She did exactly that. But I was with you. I had Amertume on top too. When you saw the rail open up a little bit, and you just saw.
And Amertume and Brittata both ran nice.
Yeah, they did.
But
absolutely.
The Way I Am is just much better.
Oh yeah, and you could see it from the replay. It was just a different level that day for The Way I Am, and that. I thought you could not have ran a better race for Amertume and did exactly what the game plan was. Just have a nice little stalking roll and then make a move late in the race, and did that, but the rail was wide open for Amertume, The Way I Am. Just a very nice win there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, the 3-year-old boys went in the Palm Beach. I always talk about this subdivision of 3-year-olds on turf. I think it's a lot of fun year in and year out. There are a lot of nice races, 3-year-olds on turf, right through late summer. So it's fun to watch and kind of get a feel in these early months of the year who will be players going forward. I like Murad on top. I like Speed Franco in the second spot. I had the third and fourth horses flip-flopped in my picks, but it is number 2, Murad, getting it done. Nice ride here from John Velasquez. Speed Franco runs second as the 8-5 favorite. Number 6, Therapist third. Number 7, Hawkish fourth. But again, if we're now looking forward to how this 3-year-old division on turf will play out, these are clearly 2 of the horses that are up in the top of that division. But Murad now 3 wins and 5 career starts. Speed Franco, same 5 career starts, a couple of wins and a couple of second-place finishes. But as the chart margin indicates, and as you saw right there by a neck, I think they're both on about the same level.
Yeah, I think they're on the same level as well. And I was with you there. I didn't, but I had Speed Franco on top. I did not think he would have went off favorite. But as you said, it was a toss-up for favoritism there. But I did have Therapist in the mix as well, who I thought ran a nice race closing there. Would like to see that horse run again.
Therapist and Hawkish in particular, that was only the second career start.
Yeah.
Therapist, it was only the fourth career start, but hadn't been seen since last October. So, given the circumstances, nice races from both of those horses.
Absolutely. And, I thought a little quick on the time fractions there, so I think the closing speed for Therapist, I think that's going to come up big later down the road.
Sand Springs, a little bit earlier on the card. The Sand Springs was for the ladies, 4-year-olds and up, fillies and mares, going a mile on the grass. And, I mentioned earlier how well I think John Velasquez is running.
Yeah.
Celestine is in here as the 2-5 favorite. Celestine, the number 1 horse, looked like an obvious single on everybody's ticket. You can see Celestine, not so obvious there on the rail. Will wind up running 4th. But John Velasquez just lulled him to sleep on Team of Teams, the number 5 horse. And as they turned into stretches, you see here, he just pulled away and ran away by 3 lengths at 11-1. Grizzle, who I had in my mix, we'd met Grizzle last summer, Queen's Plate weekend, up at Woodbine, because we talked to Michael Doyle a little bit, and he was actually standing outside his barn grazing Grizzle, and mentioning that the next week she would run into Belmont Oaks. So again, I thought she had a little bit of potential maybe as a new 4-year-old, and she does run a nice second. Island Reward runs 3rd. Celestine, wow, I mean, that was just amazing. And maybe it was a factor of the pace, but that she didn't even get on the board. I was curious to see where the show prices would go, but it was a little too big of a field for them to totally blow up. They were a little out of line. The show price is $14, $7, and $15. But Celestine had taken almost $100,000 out of 131 in the show pool. I looked it up after the race, but there was just a big enough field that it didn't, as I say, totally blow up those show prices. But still, a shocker was Celestine at 2-5 running 4th in there.
Yeah, obviously everyone singled that horse, Celestine, there. Because you probably felt very good going into the early pick 5. You're singled with Celestine. Obviously, probably the best horse on paper there. You got a little bit of prices before the 4 races prior to that. But yeah, an absolute shock, not running into the money. But, you kind of get that feeling Johnny V was going to pull away, and no one was really making a move on him. Celestine really wasn't going
and the backstretch, when you looked at the fractions and the way, and then they came around the turn, it became clear that this horse is going to be tough to reel in.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw that, and as you said, Johnny V, he is very impressive down there right now.
He's having a great season. And finally, let's take a look at the very one. Wanted to show this one as well, because speaking of the Queen's Plate, Holy Helena, we were up there last year, and she beat the boys as a filly, 3-year-old filly. She won the Queen's Plate last year for Jimmy Jerkins. Subsequently, 8th in the Alabama, went up to the Ontario Derby and ran 2nd there. But the seasonal comeback was a turf try. Pretty good optional claiming win for Jimmy Jerkins, but the number was a little light. She was going to have to step it up yesterday. She does. She's the number 4 horse there, winning the very one. So she's, I would guess, given that they tested the turf last time and now she gets a graded stakes win in a turf race, I would guess her season probably will focus on turf this year. And given what she did yesterday, what we saw there, what was the chart margin? A length and 3/4 over Daring Duchess. Daring Duchess was the horse I had on top. This is a talented stakes level performer. So it was a nice little field in there, and she did it pretty easily.
Yeah, it was a really nice field, and it did really look like an easy effort there for Holy Helena. And then Daring Duchess, I thought it was a little bit vulnerable there, but I thought if you can get $9 for that horse to win, that's a good play if you played that horse on top.
And again, Holy Helena, we'll see, but I would guess turf is probably going to be the game plan.
I would think so.
This year. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll shift our attention to a little bit of handicapping for this Sunday afternoon. Please stay with us.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Sign up today for Capital OTB's handicapping series and plan your trip to Las Vegas.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. I almost said OTB Live because I say it all afternoon. Racing Across America here on the Capital OTB TV network. Seth Merrill and Sully Crotty. We'll take a look at some action for this afternoon, see if we can give out some clever ideas. And we're both going to start things out taking a look at Gulfstream Park's 7th race. I'll shoot it over to you first, Sully. It's a maiden special weight event. They're 5 furlongs on the grass. What did you see at race 7 at Gulfstream today?
I went 5-1, 2, and 7. I think number 5 is a nice play at 5-1, and still as first-time starter. Horacio DePaz and Jose Lascano teaming up. Just the works, I think, earlier on in January. A nice bullet there, and a good work, I thought, late in December. So with just field and DePaz winning at a 40% clip on his first-time starts with an RI over a little over 3, that's everything that you want to see for first-time starter at a nice price. Jose Lascano, he's winning a lot of his races. Majority of his 21 wins at the meet have been on the grass. He's also winning 28% of his sprints and 29% of his turf sprints as first-time starters. So a nice little play there for a $225,000 buyer tag there at 5-1. Number 1 is probably going to be a lukewarm favorite in this race at 5-2. Junior, you get Robbie Alvarado up for Mark Cassidy. This horse is loaded with some speed, a $325,000 buyer tag there. But last time out, I'm willing to give an X through that because the effort 2 back, that was a nice effort going 5 furlongs. So this horse does have some speed, wants to get out. I think the rail might be a little bit of a concern. That's why I want to play the horse underneath. The last 2 times the horse had the rail, they were the first 2 starts in the career. But really didn't do any running at all. Ran distant last places those days. So I think the horse needs to get out. You get Robbie up. That's a little bit, just a little change up there from what the horse is used to. So interesting to see how the horse does if the horse gets out. If not, that's why for me, I can't play that horse on top. And the number 2 at 12-1, I think is a very interesting play for George Arnold. Horse, the last 3 starts, 2 of them I thought were okay last time out. Going to give a little bit of a pass for that race. But I think this horse really wants to go 5 furlongs. The 7.5 was a little too long. The mile was a little bit too long. We did see that. So I think the horse really does want to get to this 5 furlong field, which we did see last time out. Another horse that's loaded with some speed. But at 12-1, I really think that is a nice play to complete some trifectas and superfectas. So race number 7, I went 5-1, 2, and 7, and I know you have some thoughts on this race too, Seth.
I'm right with you as far as the exact. I like to hear it when you threw out the numbers because we hadn't compared notes. But I've got it 5, 1, 7, and 4. I too like Ann Still, the number 5 horse, 5-1 on the morning line. We'll see what the horse goes off at. But yeah, they paid $225,000 for this horse at a 2-year-old sale last year. Now, typically, I like to see these 2-year-old sale horses come back, Saratoga, no later than that before I really put much stock in the 2-year-old side of things. But the potent win early kind of connections, Horacio DePaz and Sagamore, certainly we took notice of them up at Saratoga last season. But with Violence on top, That is a sire that produces win early types. Violence last year, 50 first-time starters, 12 wins, 8 seconds, 5 thirds. So 20 out of 50 hit the exacta first-time starters for Violence, 40%. So solid numbers with the sire, solid numbers with the trainer and the connections. So I just think Ann Still could be a little bit interesting first time out of the box at maybe a little bit of value. I'm right there also with Oroscopo. I'm going to go to the race 2 back. I think last time with the trouble, probably a little bit of an aberration. I think we'll get more what we saw 2 back. Third spot for me was Be Gone Daddy. Tyler Gaffleone sticks on board in the second career start for George Weaver by Scat Daddy. I think the horse will appreciate the education garnered in start number 1, could move forward in start number 2 this afternoon. So again, I'm right with Sully. We'll see if the 5-1 exacta, if we're both looking into the same crystal ball or we're putting additional weight on those two this afternoon. But I have it 5-1, 7, and 4. 8th race at Gulfstream. Sully will take a look at this maiden 20 claimer, 7.5 on the grass.
I went 10, 7, 6, and 2 here. Number 10 is Kierland. Tyler Gaffleone and Michael Maker teaming up. Michael Maker's had a phenomenal meet down in South Florida, winning at an 80% clip. And Tyler Gaffleone as well. He's phenomenal on the grass. Very interesting race, I think, because the horse is cutting back, dropping down a little bit in class. But I think the cut to the 7.5, 2 turns is really the nice play here at 6-1. Has only hit the board once in the 9 starts, but was going a lot longer distances. Ran against some good fields in the NYRA circuit, especially down at Belmont Park. Ran against some nice fields. Came in second with a nice closing effort last July. I just think we're waiting for this closing effort to return, and I think the 7.5 is where the horse really wants to go, because I think the mile on the 16th, the horse does have a little bit of a late kick, but I think it's just a little bit too far, and it places itself a little far back. So I think it needs to be a little bit closer to the pace. Gaffleone does a great job at that, especially with a closing horse. Number 7 is Surf Shack, 7-5 in the morning line. Romans and Saez teaming up here. Horse should have won the last 2 starts in the maiden 20. I think today, another little bit of a closing effort we saw last time out. I think today is going to be a little bit closer to the pace on 10 lengths off that we saw last time out, but a really good effort by Saez just to get into the money that race as a big favorite. I think it's closer to the pace, and the $400,000 buyer tag really does stand out. And number 6 underneath as well is another softball. This horse is cutting back as well in the distance. The mile and 16th efforts weren't bad, especially 2 back in a maiden 20 race. Ran second that day. Pretty slow fractions as well, so that's the one concerning thing I think with another softball. Had the lead, or was a length from the lead to those slow fractions, so the horse could not get home that day on the lead. I really don't think it's a safe play on top, but 8-1 if you wire that field, that's a nice steal there. Race number 8, I went 10, 7, 6, and 2. Moving on to New York, race number 9 at Aqueduct, 7 furlongs, maiden claiming race for $30,000.
And I'm going to say a triple box here, but only because one of my horses has some odds. So it's going to be one where you're going to have to maybe take a look and see that the odds hold up. But I think maybe a triple box could be a little bit interesting in the 9th at Aqueduct. 2, 7, 8, and 5. Love your buttons on top. Yeah, 8-5, and the logical horse to beat in here. Claimed last time out of a good 3rd place finish in a similar event with a couple of numbers, actually the last 3 numbers, but one was on turf. Stack up really, really well with this bunch. So the horse just number-wise looks to have a little bit of an edge. So love your buttons, looks logical. Champagne Pappy in the 2nd spot at 4-1. Nice close-up finish in a similar event last time with the blinkers added. So I think this horse is a cozy fit. But Clone Samard, the number 8 horse, 15-1 on the morning line, was just behind, was behind Champagne Pappy last time. It is about 3 lengths. But I'm just looking at this horse and thinking, you know what? This horse, as compared to the rest of the field, I can easily see Clone Samard getting into the trifecta this afternoon. And I can easily see that 15-1 holding up. The last 3 races, 59-1, 19-1, 54-1. So again, if the price holds up, I think this is a horse that maybe can add a little bit of value to a potential triple play. Arthur Avenue also in the mix to me, off a little bit of class relief and some ability. So again, take a look at the odds, but if they hold up, maybe a little bit interesting with Clone Samard offering some value. The 9th at Aqueduct, I have it 2, 7, 8, and 5. All right, Sully will take a look now at race number 9 at Gulfstream Park on this Sunday afternoon. Optional claimer, non-winners of 2 other than. They're going to go 6 furlongs. Your thoughts in the 9th?
Yeah, it's just a really tough race here, and it started late pick 5, so you obviously want to be alive. You're betting that. But I went 7, 3, 2, and 4 here. I'm going to go away from the Rapoli-Pletcher combo here, dropping from the Conley. I think Nikki Bell at 5-1. Barboza and Harmelio teaming up. They're a nice team. Victor Barboza winning at a 19% clip as well. Just the last time out, this horse ran on the fast track at Gulfstream was over the summer, winning by 3 lengths in an optional claiming field. I know the horse can handle this optional claiming 50 field, but at GP West, a little bit of a pass there. First time running on a fast track since that race back in July. Ran on the slop in between those starts. So very interesting to see how this horse does again. I think fits in very nicely here with this optional claiming field. This 50 field ran okay in the 62 field at GP West last time out. I think the layoff's going to help, and a nice little bullet work and a 3 out of 47 the last 2 works. Number 3 in the second spot is Luz Mimi. A horse the last time out this looked really impressive, and I think is ready to go up to this a little bit higher of an optional claiming field. This horse loves the Gulfstream surface, runs in the money 6 times in 7 starts. You get Jose Ortiz up as well for Jeremiah Engelhardt, who's winning at a 17% clip. I think the horse needs to get to the lead. If it gets to the lead, it's just going to be stretching for the wire, trying to get there before Sailor's Valentine. 2-1 probably will go off as the favorite, is the morning line favorite. Javier Castellano and Eddie Keneally teaming up. 26% clip winning for Eddie Keneally, $100,000 horse dropping into this class from the Kentucky Oaks, the Ashland. Really didn't do any running in the Oaks. Maybe that was a slop. So I think this horse is going to be tough to beat, especially cutting back. Has run in the 6 furlongs before in high optional claimings and a stakes race. Ran second that day, but ran huge at the Ashland, 22-1 at Keeneland. So this horse obviously is a lot better than the rest of this field. Does have some speed and really balanced on paper. It's going to be interesting to see where Castellano places this horse. Race number 9, 7, 3, 2, and 4. Moving to Oaklawn Park, race number 6, a mile and a 16th maiden claimer for $34,000.
And this is, I'd play around exacta-wise here if the morning line holds up. I'm not sure it will, but I have a 2, 1, 9, and 5. So it's hard to recommend an actual play in here, but I'm going to look to play exactas in some fashion. I have 9-2, over 7-2, over 6-1, and then the 4 spot, 8-1. I just think Animus, the number 1 at 7-2, probably going to take some money off the buyer figure fired in the first start. But I have to say, all 3 of my top picks have some question marks in that they're going for claiming tags today that are much less than their purchase prices. We'll see. But Yellow Wolf on top, second-time starter by Malibu Moon. Again, they paid $225,000. They go for $40 today, moving maiden special weight, maiden to maiden claiming. But it's Brad Cox. I just have a feeling they're being realistic, and I think that's the situation with all 3 of my picks here. Animus, solid buyer, and as I say, given that number compared to the rest of the field, I think Animus will take the action in here. Dane Kabisky trains, and again, maiden special weight to maiden claiming off a decent-looking debut. So we'll put that one in strike rate, 3rd-time start, and maiden special weight to maiden claiming for Steve Asmussen. But again, they paid significantly more than the claiming price today. So there are some question marks, but we'll see if the morning line holds up. Again, I'll look around to play exactas in some fashion in here. In the 6th at Oaklawn, 2, 1, 9, and 5. All right, before we go, did want to pull up, earlier this week, Naira made an announcement, and it was a few months ago, probably last fall. People were telling me there was construction going on up at Saratoga. At the end of the grandstand, they had taken out some of the grandstand seats, I guess the last couple of sections in the grandstand, and they were going to kind of upgrade and make it a more premium kind of seating. Well, earlier this week, Naira came out and announced they have a premium seating area called The Stretch, which is those 2 sections at the top of the stretch. This is an artist rendering. It looks nice. The press release that came out said various seating options. As you can see in the back there, an exclusive bar. They'll have some couch seating, those semicircle tables. These will be able to be purchased, essentially box seating kind of thing on a seasonal basis, I guess special events as well. It looks like, I think, Sully, it's an interesting concept. They're looking to kind of upgrade and move into the 21st century as far as providing some premium kind of seating areas, and this one in an area of the track that Sully, you and I are both on the other side on the backstretch, and a lot of times I will work late in the afternoon, and on a Wednesday or a Thursday I can look over, and those last two sections in the grandstand were empty anyway.
Yeah,
so if they can kind of upgrade and give people a new seating option. Yeah, you're at the top of the stretch and you think premium seating normally on the finish line, but you have to think outside of the box. And these days, you have a high definition television in front of you. You watch them go by you live, and then you look down and you get the finish line via the TV. I think it's going to be popular.
I think it's going to be very popular as well. And, as you said, it's nice seating right there. It's brand new, and you got a bar there. Obviously, you could bet there's TVs going to be all over the place. And what I'm hearing, and I agree, that section is always empty during the week, and I think this will make the tickets go up a little bit, and I think it's going to be very affordable too. So, you're coming into town, or you have the kids, or you have friends with you. I think that's a nice day at the races there if you get one of those sections there.
Yeah, I tried to look up the cost. I'm not sure what the cost, and some of this is being sold as a seasonal kind of a box seat concept. But again, they were also saying special events and whatnot, so it'll be interesting to see what the eventual pricing is. But I do think it's going to be a fun option and popular, I think, down there at the kind of the top of the stretch kind of area. As I say, those last two sections down at the end of the grandstand. All right, we'll wrap things up. We're over. Seth Merrow and Sully Crotty. Sully, good luck this afternoon.
Absolutely, you too, Seth.
And Racing Across America coming to an end for another Sunday. I'm going to be back in about an hour or so with OTB Live for a Sunday afternoon. Tune in for that. In the meantime, enjoy the racing. Thanks to our friends at Gulfstream Park for their sponsorship. Gulfstream Park, champions start here. Also want to remind you, Bet 50, Get 50 continues through the month of March. Sign up for a new Capital OTB Bets account. Wager $50 in before the end of the month, and you will get $50 put into your account. So keep that in mind as well. Enjoy all the bells and whistles of a Capital OTB Bet account. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Nice show this morning. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And as I say, stay tuned for all the action this afternoon. We'll see you then. And as far as this show, we'll see you next week.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.